What is going on YouTube? It is Primitive here, and today I'm going to be bringing you a fun little match that's going to be between myself on the right playing Imperial and my good friend Chris on the left playing LordKnightmon. Now, we have been testing this matchup a lot, and I wanted to bring you this matchup because I feel like when we were playing this that this matchup really shows how Imperial can play into LordKnightmon and the various things that we can see in this matchup. So getting on into it, we're going to see our opponent start off with no rookie and then go into the TK, which they do end up grabbing the Bushi, so they at least have a rookie in hand, and I have an atrocious hand. My hand is pretty awful. As you can see, I decided to hard play the Imperialdramon turn 1 because my opponent did put me to 3, so it was relatively safe, and then I just have to hard play the Lobomon because so far I am missing rookies and tamers, but we do see the LordKnightmon go ahead and swing in and hit the Imperial, and they're both going to be at 12k going down. So although that I did have a pretty rough hand at the beginning, as of right now I'm not feeling too bad because the LordKnightmon did go ahead and swing in, die, so it feels relatively even, but we're going to see the opponent Blinding Ray, take out my Imperialdramon, so that's not the best. And then I was really scared here of the Starmons because the Knightmon came down earlier, giving the minus 4k to the Lobomon, so if they did take out one of my, both my Digimon here, I'd be in a really tough position, but I'm able to at least get a Dino Beamon going in, and I can swing with jamming. And then I'm going to go ahead and Hammer Spark to go up to 1, and then I'm going to Digivolve into Nidhogg here. Now, I don't have the effect to Digiburst here, but getting my Digimon up to a 13k is going to be really nice. It gives me a lot more survivability as long as my opponent doesn't have Valdararm, but we're going to see them immediately come out into Valdararm, so everything's kind of going wrong right now. I do finally hit the Davis, and in there I'm able to get the Vmon as well as the Dino Beamon, so I have a rookie in hand and I have some things going. And although I've been pretty far behind this whole matchup, I don't feel like I'm in the worst position just because they don't have LordKnightmon on board, and they're not going to have a LordKnightmon on board for a few more turns. And with my opponent's security already starting to go down despite me being behind, I feel like I could potentially catch up as long as there's not a bunch of blockers that come out, because I do have a Davis on board which does threaten a Lobomon, and I have a rookie now, so I can start to build up into an Imperialdramon in raising. Now the Cutemon is on board, so I'm not going to be able to play it 4-3. I'm going to have to Digivolve at 4-5 if I go into the Imperial, but I want to at least start developing as much as I can and try to get as many Digimon on the board as I can and start to get those swings, because like I said, they're at 3, so if I can start to get some more swings going and then have that Lobomon pressure, I can still come back in this matchup despite having those rough couple first turns. Now we see I'm playing another Hammer Spark. I have all kinds of Hammer Sparks. I've played 3 of my Hammer Sparks now already, I do believe, but I decided to bounce the Valdararm back into hand because going into the next turn, they would have 4 attacks to my 3 security, so unless there was a Kakaitis Breath in my security, then we're not going to really be able to survive there, so I had to preemptively play it to make sure that I could at least get into my next turn and try to go for game. I'm still looking in a rough position. I'm not sure how I win this matchup here, but I got to at least attempt. My opponent is Digivolving into the Angelomon now, so being able to Digivolve something on top of that and then have the Angelomon pressure is going to be pretty intense. If they play something like Lucemon, this game is just going to be a little too far out of reach. I need them to not recover or play any blockers here. But we're going to see the LordGreymon come out. No effect to unsuspend because they don't want to take away their own security, but we do see that it hits the Hammer Spark. No effect off of the Angelomon there. So going into my turn, I have to swing in. I wanted to attempt to swing into the Kodamon, but that doesn't really get me anything. With the LordGreymon on board, getting Digimon off board doesn't help me, so I have to just try and see if there's anything I can do, but after looking at my hand, there's nothing that I can do. I'm just going to lose on the clapback, even if I do hit Kakaitis Breath, so just going to scoop that up and go into game 2. I'm going to decide to go first because looking at the last game, even though I was super far behind, I do feel like that was a very winnable game if I was just able to stick one Ultimate or Imperialdramon on the board. So I'm feeling very comfortable going into this matchup. I know that I have the capability to outpace it and win, so I want to go first, hoping that I do hit my Jamming Vmons because it's a very powerful card in the matchup very early, and it allows you to get draws and early checks, but I am unable to hit those, so I decided to just go into the Gabumon. I was thinking about if I wanted to Digivolve the Gabumon or the Elecmon in the raising because Elecmon is a 2-drop, which is valuable, and Gabumon has the draw, which is valuable, so it was really hard for me to choose, but I decided that I wanted to put my opponent to as little memory as possible, because if I put them at 1, that forces them to have Unimon to Digivolve. If they don't, then they're going to have to put me to probably 3 or 4 memory, because putting them at 1, if they Digivolve into something like a Pidomon, and then they'll have to Digivolve into an Ultimate or play something like a Rookie or a Tamer, so playing the Hammer Spark there is just going to make it so that my opponent can have a lot lower of a chance of having a turn where they put me to 1, but they do have the Unimon and they do get to 1, so not going to have that there, but we will see them Digivolve the Angewomon, which is going to give me security tech -2 on my Dino-Beamon, which is a bit unfortunate, but they decide to just take it out anyway, and he made a little mark there saying that he should have given security tech -2 to the LordKnightmon instead. And now I have an Imperial in hand, so I decide to skip over the Imperial now, which will end up biting me in the butt a little bit later. But with no champions in hand, I felt obligated to grab the Gorillamon there so I could start developing up into my ultimates and in the Imperialmon in hand. So if I did take the Imperial there, the chances of me actually getting up into Imperial were a lot lower. So I'm going to go ahead and grab it out here. Now, I want to promote my Vmon here and start doing some jamming things, but I see the War Growlmon in the back, so I decide that I'm going to have to build up in raising if I want to have a chance. Swing with the Elecmon here, because we can see the War Growlmon in raising, so if I don't swing with it, then it's just going to come out and die for free, as to where now I can at least get a check, and it does hit the Patamon, and so my 3k to its 2k DP does make it survive, so my opponent will either have to swing out over it or use the Digiburst on it, which is fine. I got my value out of it and still got the Digiburst out of the way, so that can't threaten my Imperialdramon or Imperialdramon in the back with a combination of Slash, so not feeling as bad. Gonna see a Blinding Ray here, which normally is something that I'm pretty happy to see in the matchup, because them getting rid of their own security is usually really good for me, but they do have the Angewomon underneath, so when I saw that I was a little bit scared, because if they swung and played the Lucemon, it could have been something that would have just been a neutral, and they would just have the 3 memory to now go into this War Greymon. The War Greymon is another Digimon that is kind of scary because it can delete a lot of my Digimon with its unsuspending effect, but if it does unsuspend, they do have to take one of their security, and at this point, if they don't play Cutemon and they take one of their security, I do threaten game, because I will go to 3, and I'll be able to swing with Imperialdramon, unsuspend with Imperialdramon, and get 2 more swings, and if I hit the Omnimon, I would have game there, but they know that one of the Omnimons is at the bottom because of the earlier Davis, so I'm going to take the more defensive route here, which is just straight up Digivolving into Imperialdramon right away, and then using its unsuspend with Imperialdramon to go ahead and swing over both the War Greymon as well as swinging over the Slash to get off the presence off the board. I wasn't going to be able to swing in for a game that turn, especially because the Kari. If I swung in with the Imperialdramon, then I wouldn't even been able to Digivolve into Imperialdramon there, so had to go for the better play, and then I decided to Hammer Spark there and then go for the Lobomon. Since I have the Davis out, the actual Hammer Sparks are a little bit less impactful because I'm going to be going to 3 no matter what, and this deck really just wants to play off of 3 memory a lot. So with the Hammer Spark there, I'm able to Digivolve one of my Davis into a Lobomon, which doesn't matter because I have 2 Davis, and put my opponent at 1. So now for them to be able to do anything impactful, I'm going to force them to have to play Blinding Ray and tap the Kari, so that way they can go up to 4 memory from that point, which then they would be able to Digivolve into a champion, and then a War Growlmon to Digiburst, and then Slash, which would take out my Imperial. So I had to force it, because if I left them at 2 memory, then they would be able to Blinding Ray, go up to 4, and be able to do the play of Champion and then Ultimate and then Slash without having to tap the Kari, which means it would be unsuspended on my turn. Now, I'm not 100% sure if that was a necessary or correct play, but that is the reason why I Hammer Sparked into Lobo there, putting them at 1. I just wanted to give them as little resources as possible, since this is a relatively uneven matchup for my deck. The LordKnightmon has definitely got the favor, so I have to give them as little options as possible to make it so that I can survive, but my opponent's just going to go ahead and Digivolve into the Unimon there as a essential concede, and then I'm going to go ahead and take game 2 and go into game 3. Now, my opponent is going to have me going first here because they want to be behind in this matchup, as a LordKnightmon player would, because you want to promote your Lord Knight after they promote their Imperial, so that you're able to either swing over with LordKnightmon or do the Knightmon Slash stuff, so makes sense here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and double Hammer Spark here and play another Jamming Vmon. My hand is the 2 Jamming Vmon, the 2 Hammer Spark, and the Imperialdramon. So with that hand, I feel like my best option is to go ahead and get these Jamming Vmons out as early as possible and start to get early checks. So my opponent's going to go into Sirenmon here. I'm going to swing, get the draw with Demi V, and then we're going to swing with Jamming again. So 2 checks already out. Now, I know that one of them is likely going to be swung over next turn just because they can promote and swing over it and slow down the pressure. But if my opponent does promote, then they are weak to Cocytus Breath, which is something that they have to play around, which is what they're playing around, which is why we see the TK here. So that way next turn they can go into the LordKnightmon safely and start to get checks going. But I'm going to get 2 more jamming swings here. I'm going to play a 3rd Jamming Vmon in security or in raising. So right now my presence is super insane, and then I'm going to play 2 Siakumon, so I'm essentially just rookie rushing them here. I haven't seen a single champion yet, and I'm likely not going to need to. Now, the LordKnightmon is going to come out, but the amount of Digimon on board may potentially just be too much. They're going to have to go into Valderarm here, which was we're going to see. Going to clear off the 2 Siakomon. And I'm going to be able to go into Vmon, swing with the jamming Demi V, and then go straight into the Lobomon, sealing up this nice little practice set 2-1 in my favor. Well, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this gave you a little bit of insight how I've been approaching the Lord Knight matchup as Imperial. You really want to get those aggressive checks early and make sure that you're going to be able to have that combo coming, or as you saw, play defensive plays when you need to, like when I swung over the War Greymon and the Slash. But I do have a Discord for the channel now that I made recently, so if you're interested in joining that, the link is going to be down below with my other social medias. So if you're interested, please be sure to check that out and come join us. I would really love to build this amazing community with you all. So with that being said, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time for some more Digimon content. Have a great day. Peace out.